about to tell you something that surprises a lot of people. Not because it's scary, but because almost nobody explains it clearly. If you're over 60 and you take vitamin D every day, or calcium, or both, you might be doing something helpful for your bones, but incomplete for the rest of your body. And when something is incomplete, it doesn't always fail loudly. Sometimes it fails quietly for years, until one day you feel the consequences. Today, I'm going to walk you through the 5 most common vitamin D supplement mistakes I see in older adults, why they matter, and what a safer, more balanced approach looks like. This is not medical advice, and I'm not here to replace your doctor, but I am here to help you understand the logic so you can ask better questions, make smarter decisions, and avoid the most common traps. Because vitamin D is not a bad supplement. It's actually one of the most important nutrients for aging well. The problem is many people take it in a way that doesn't match how the body actually works. Let me start with a quick story. A man I'll call Arthur was in his early 70s. He did many things right, walked often, ate reasonably, kept his weight stable, stayed active, and for years he took his bone supplements faithfully and calcium and vitamin D. His bone density looked great, but later he started getting tired more easily. He noticed chest pressure with exertion. Stairs felt harder than they used to. When doctors looked deeper, they found calcification, stiffening in places you do not want stiffening. Now I want to be careful here. Calcification has many causes: genetics, inflammation, kidney function, blood pressure, blood sugar, smoking history, medications. This is complex. But Arthur's story illustrates an important principle. When vitamin D increases calcium absorption, your body still needs systems that guide where calcium should go. Vitamin D helps you absorb calcium, but vitamin D does not drive the truck. Think of vitamin D like the person opening the door to a warehouse. Let the calcium in. Now calcium is inside, but calcium needs instructions. Where should it go? Bones, teeth, or accidentally into soft tissues? Calcium does not come with a GPS. That's why your body relies on helper systems, nutrients and proteins that manage calcium traffic. And when those helpers are missing, you can end up with the famous paradox: people trying to protect their bones while ignoring what their arteries, valves, and kidneys might be doing in the background. So let's talk about the first mistake, the most common one. Mistake 1: taking vitamin D without thinking about vitamin K2. Vitamin K is not just the clotting vitamin. There are different forms of vitamin K, and one of them, vitamin K2, is deeply involved in calcium handling. In simple terms, vitamin K2 helps activate proteins that support getting calcium into the right places and discouraging it from settling in places where it doesn't belong. Now, I'm not saying vitamin K2 is magic. I'm saying it's part of the normal system. If you increase calcium absorption with vitamin D, but you never think about vitamin K2 at all, you're ignoring a major partner. And this becomes especially relevant after 60, when arteries naturally lose flexibility, inflammation tends to rise, kidney function may not be as strong as it once was, and many people take more supplements than they did at 40. Here's the practical point. If you're taking vitamin D long term, ask your clinician whether vitamin K2 makes sense for you, especially if you also take calcium, or if you have concerns about cardiovascular calcification. And an important safety note: If you take blood thinners like warfarin, you must not add vitamin K supplements without medical guidance. That's not optional. So the takeaway for mistake one is simple. Vitamin D increases absorption. Vitamin K2 is part of the guidance system. Ignoring guidance systems is how people get into trouble. Slowly. Now, mistake two is the one that causes symptoms fast for many people. Mistake two, taking vitamin D while being low on magnesium. Many older adults don't realize this. Magnesium is involved in hundreds of reactions in the body, including reactions that help vitamin D do its job. Vitamin D you swallow is not instantly active. Your body converts it through steps, and magnesium helps those processes run smoothly. When magnesium is low, people may notice things like muscle cramps, sleep disruption, restlessness, constipation, or a feeling of wired but tired. And some people notice palpitations, not because vitamin D is bad, but because their mineral balance is already fragile. Now again, we're not diagnosing anyone here. Palpitations have many causes and should be discussed with a clinician. But the pattern is common enough that it's worth knowing. Sometimes a person starts vitamin D, then suddenly feels cramps or fluttering, and they assume the vitamin D is the enemy, when actually the body is signaling, I'm missing building materials. Magnesium is found in foods like leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and legumes, but many diets don't include enough of these consistently. So, a smarter approach is not more and more vitamin D. A smarter approach is balance. If you take vitamin D regularly, ask whether your magnesium intake is adequate. Through food first, and supplements only if appropriate. Now we move to mistake three, and this one is about choosing the right form. Mistake three, confusing vitamin D2 with vitamin D3, vitamin D2, and vitamin D3 both exist, and they're often treated as interchangeable. But in real-world practice, many clinicians prefer D3 for most people because it tends to raise blood levels more reliably. So if you've ever been taking vitamin D for months and your blood level barely moves, one question to ask is, which form are you taking? Check your bottle. And while you're at it, don't guess about your vitamin D status. Test it. Ask for the standard blood test that measures your vitamin D level, then work with your clinician on a plan. That is far safer than random dosing, which brings us to mistake four. And this is the one people almost never talk about. Mistake four, taking vitamin D without food, especially without fat. Vitamin D is fat soluble. That means it absorbs better when you take it with a meal that contains some fat. If you take it with plain water or black coffee or on an empty stomach, some people absorb less than they think they are. You don't need a heavy meal. Even something simple helps. Eggs, yogurt, nuts, avocado, olive oil with breakfast, or a normal meal that isn't fat-free. This one change alone can make a difference for many people because it's not about increasing dose. It's about improving absorption. Now, mistake five is where a lot of confusion happens. And I want to handle this carefully. Mistake five, dosing without a target and without follow-up testing. People hear different numbers online. Take 1,000. No, take 5,000. No, take 10,000. But here's the truth. The right dose depends on your current blood level, your sun exposure, your body size, your diet, your medications, and your health conditions. So rather than arguing over numbers, the smarter strategy is test. Supplement with guidance, retest, adjust. That's it. If your level is low, you may need more for a period of time. If it's in a healthy range, you may need less to maintain. And the big danger is doing high dose vitamin D long term without monitoring, especially if you also take calcium and you're not thinking about partner nutrients. Because what we want is not maximum vitamin D. What we want is healthy bones, healthy muscles, healthy balance, and a cardiovascular system that stays as flexible as possible for as long as possible. Let's slow this down and make it practical. I want you to be able to listen to this part and mentally check your own routine without feeling overwhelmed. No complicated science, no scare tactics, just a clear checklist you can use. Here are the 5 mistakes again, explained simply. Mistake 1: vitamin D without direction. Vitamin D helps calcium enter your bloodstream. That's its job. But once calcium is in the blood, it still needs guidance. Without proper support, calcium may not always end up where you expect. Bones need it, yes, but soft tissues don't. That's why many clinicians now talk about vitamin K2 as a partner nutrient. Not a replacement, not a cure, but part of the system. The key idea is this: vitamin D opens the door, vitamin K2 helps guide traffic. If you take vitamin D long term, especially with calcium, it's reasonable to ask whether your body has the tools it needs to manage that calcium wisely. Again, if you use blood thinners, this is something you must discuss with your doctor first. Mistake 2: vitamin D without enough magnesium. Vitamin D does not work alone. It goes through activation steps in your body, and magnesium helps those steps happen smoothly. Many adults over 60 already have marginal magnesium intake because they eat fewer leafy greens, they avoid nuts or seeds, they take medications that affect mineral balance, or digestion simply isn't as efficient as it once was. When magnesium is low, people may notice cramps, poor sleep, tension, or heart rhythm sensations. This does not mean vitamin D is harmful. It often means the system is unbalanced. Think of vitamin D as a tool. Tools work best when the workspace is stocked properly. Mistake 3: the wrong form. Not all vitamin D supplements are identical. Vitamin D3 is the form your skin naturally produces from sunlight. Vitamin D2 is a different form that doesn't always behave the same way in the body. Many people take vitamin D for months and see very little change in blood levels, not because they are doing something wrong, but because the form matters. This is why checking the label is important. If you don't know which form you're taking, look, that alone can answer a lot of questions. Mistake 4: taking vitamin D on an empty stomach. This one is surprisingly common. Vitamin D dissolves in fat. That's how it gets absorbed. When taken with water alone, some of it may simply pass through without being used. You don't need to overthink this. Just take vitamin D with a meal or snack that contains some fat. That's it. Mistake 5: guessing instead of measuring. This might be the most important one. Vitamin D is not something you should guess about forever. There is a simple blood test that shows your level. Once you know your number, decisions become much clearer. If it's low, you and your clinician can correct it. If it's in a healthy range, you can maintain it. If it's high, you can adjust. That's smarter than chasing numbers you hear online. Now let me give you a simple, calm routine. Not instructions, just a framework. If someone over 60 asked me how to think about vitamin D, this is what I'd say. First, know your level. Second, use the form your body recognizes. Third, take it with food. Fourth, make sure your body has the minerals it needs to use it properly. And fifth, recheck periodically instead of assuming everything is fine forever. That's it. No extremes, no panic, no mega doses without context. Vitamin D can be very helpful, equal for bones, muscles, balance, immune health, and overall resilience when it's used thoughtfully. Problems usually don't come from vitamin D itself. They come from imbalance, missing partners, poor absorption, or blind dosing. Let's bring this home. If you remember only one thing from this entire video, let it be this. Vitamin D is not a standalone supplement. It's part of a system. Most problems don't come from vitamin D itself. They come from using it in isolation. People take it with good intentions. They want stronger bones, better immunity, more energy, protection as they age, and vitamin D can support all of that when the system is balanced. But when key pieces are missing, the body struggles to use it correctly. So here's the calm, simple takeaway. Vitamin D works best when the form matches what the body recognizes. It's taken with food, not on an empty stomach. Supporting nutrients are present, and levels are checked instead of guessed. This isn't about fear. It's about alignment. Your body is incredibly intelligent. It just needs the right conditions. If you've been taking vitamin D for years and wondering why you don't feel much difference, this video may have answered that question. And if you're just starting, you now have context, not hype, not panic, context. Before we finish, let me say this clearly. Nothing in this video replaces personal medical advice. If you take prescription medications, especially blood thinners, or have kidney or heart conditions, talk with your healthcare provider before making changes. But asking better questions is always a good first step. Questions like, am I taking the right form? Am I taking it in a way my body can absorb? Do I actually know my level? Those are smart questions. And finally, if this explanation helped you see vitamin D differently, take a moment to like the video. It helps this information reach others who are quietly confused and just trying to do the right thing. Subscribe to Dr. Emily Carter, Senior Health, for calm, clear discussions about aging, supplements, and everyday health decision, each without jargon or fear. And in the comments, type sunshine. If you're going to check your supplement label or ask for your vitamin D level, your future self will thank you for paying attention today.